And today, Brian and I are here with Brittany Hodak. She is a speaker and Superfan Strategist, and she's going to talk to us today about a lot of fun stuff. Thank you for joining us today, Brittany.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me. I'm excited to be here.
All right, so before we get started, tell everybody a little bit about yourself and that journey to superfan marketing.
Absolutely. So I like to say I started on the front lines of super fandom. My first job was as a radio station mascot. So it doesn't get much more entry level than that. But it's so funny looking back because even though I was 16 years old at the time when I started that job, it really gave me a great understanding of fandom and of people who were excited to engage with a character, in this case, Sting the Bee, who was the beloved mascot for B98 in Fort Smith, Arkansas. But that kind of kickstarted my career. It led me to a career in the music industry. I spent about 15 years working in the music industry in various roles in various fields, which heightened my sensitivity to this idea of fandom. Why do we love the things that we love? Why do we engage with the things that we engage with? Why are some artists and movies and actors and brands mega successful when others just sort of fade away? And so those were the questions that I started answering. And I got a couple of degrees in marketing specifically to study this. I founded a company called the Superfan Company that I ran as an entertainment agency in New York for, I guess, almost 8 years. And now I'm doing all kinds of consulting around this idea of helping people create superfans. And despite the jazzy sound to it, like when people hear the word superfans, they might be thinking about people who paint their faces to go to a football game or dress up in cosplay for Comic-Con. And absolutely, those are superfans. But when I say the word superfans, I'm talking about customers who create more customers for your brand because they're so engaged, they're talking about you, they're generating referrals as part of their everyday life. So yes, while these may be people who identify with a certain group or fandom in pop culture, much more broadly, just about all of us are part of brand fandoms. We have our favorite, toothpaste or clothing brands or products that we use every single day, whether it's for tech, whether it's for, in the kitchen, we're driving, whatever it is. We all have these brands that we love, and we're micro influencers with the power to generate more sales for these companies.
So then you mentioned, you mentioned fan, but what's the difference then between a fan and a follower? If a brand, let's just talk social media technically, in that space. What's the difference then between someone who's got a fan and someone who's got a follower?
So a follower is somebody who's like passively engaging with your content, or perhaps sometimes actively engaging. A fan is someone who, you've identified as this person fits your marketing avatar persona. They are part of the demographic or psychographic group of people that are valuable to you because they could become customers at some point. And they are out there spreading the word for you. So think of a fan as like the megaphone at the event telling people. They're out there advocating on your behalf. They're generating more fans and more followers to you rather than just passively like scrolling. Oh, maybe I'll double tap that every now and then.
Okay, so isn't a super fan an influencer? Like we have this theory on influence the influencer, right? You influence people who could then influence others. So is there a difference between a fan and an influencer, or a super fan and an influencer?
Yes. So we can get into my I have like a long technical definition that I give with 4 parts. So I always say the long meaning of a super fan, my definition is a customer who over-indexes in their affinity for a brand, product, or service, which increases the likelihood that they're advocating on behalf of that brand, product, or service as part of everyday life. Now, there's 4 parts of that definition. The 4th part is as part of everyday life, which means these are people who are out there talking about you because they want to. There's no fiduciary relationship. They're not somebody who's being paid as an influencer. They're not somebody who has an affiliate relationship with you or is getting some kind of referral fee for sending people your way. These are just people who are organically talking about it. So influencer marketing, hugely important, right? That's something that obviously is very successful for a lot of brands and is part of their marketing mix. But usually when we're talking about influencer marketing, we're talking about people who are getting paid, right? Like they're being paid to create this content they're almost like little micro agencies, like a creative agency of one who a brand is giving money to go create some sort of engaging content. Super fans, in the terminology that I'm using, are people who are just talking about you. They're advocating because you've made their life better in some way. Your product has solved a problem that they have or increased their enjoyment in some area of their lives. And they're out there telling people about it because they want people to have that same good experience that they did. And we know from Nielsen research that 93% of people trust recommendations from a friend or family member. So it is by far the most powerful means of advertising when you can have these organic conversations that are happening, sometimes on social media, but sometimes in real life. It's if I need a new vacuum cleaner and I text a group of girlfriends and say, I need a vacuum cleaner, like, who has done the best job to make one of those people come back to me and say, this is absolutely the product that you need to buy. You will love it. And then I will probably buy it without doing any further research because, one of my trusted friends has told me that that's the vacuum cleaner for me.
So that kind of leads into, well, I was going to ask, how much advocating does a person have to do for that company in order to be considered a super fan? Is it just that one response, let's say, that one time I text you back and I say, get this vacuum? Does that then make me a super fan?
So that's a great question. And the answer really depends on what the organization is, right? So there is not one size fits all definition of what a super fan is. And if you're someone who is running a company or working in sales, it's really about identifying what are the important markers for your company. What does a super fan look like to your company, and how can you start to create them or build them? A lot of times for a product, like one touch is all it takes, right? But other times for something that is maybe a higher consideration or a higher cost product, it may take either one person telling you a lot of times this is what you need, or a lot of different people in your social circle who are advocating, or maybe not in your social circle. Maybe it's people who are leaving reviews online or making referrals online for a product, to where, you look at some of these companies who have almost cult-like followers, like, Tesla or Apple. It's not necessarily one person. It could be one person in your network saying, I absolutely love my new Tesla and you need it. Or it could be this collective, critical mass of so many people talking about how great their experiences with a brand have been.
So okay, so I'm gonna say I'm a Jeep super fan, like I'm a Jeep Wrangler guy, right? And usually Jeep Wrangler people are Jeep Wrangler people, like that's all they drive, right? So now, can companies, because you see Jeep do this a lot, right? Someone will actually post like a really nice picture of their Jeep on a mountain, and Jeep will then go and retweet it. Do you think they actually start influencing and causing super fans like, oh wow, these guys really love me also? Like, do you need that interaction from that company in some ways? I know you could just be like, I'm a fan of Apple, like I love this device, it makes my life easy, or I love Steve Jobs, or for whatever reason, right? But can they influence that?
Definitely. Because all of us as people, whether we admit it or not, we all want to feel validation, right? We all want to be heard. We all want to feel like we're appreciated. We all want to feel like we're part of something bigger than ourselves. We self-select into these communities throughout our entire life. And that's kind of what fandom is, right? Fandom or super fandom is identifying a community and raising your hand and saying, I want to be a part of that. That is part of my story, and I'm part of that story, like this intersection of the stories that we have. So absolutely, social listening is one of the most important things that brands can do, because it is so easy for you to, like if you're a big enough brand, or you don't have a big enough brand, any brand at all, something as simple as liking a post that somebody does is going to create that affinity. It's going to create that social proof of, wow, they heard me, right? Feeling heard, feeling acknowledged, feeling appreciated. There's this great quote from Oprah where she says, every single person she's ever met has wanted the same thing, and that's validation. People want to know that they're seen and they're heard. And so the most important thing that you can do as an entrepreneur or a salesperson, or just as somebody who wants to be a good person, is to make people feel validated. Show that you're listening to them, that you actually care what they say. And that's so much of when we talk about creating affinity and advocacy for brands, it's making sure that the customers know that you appreciate them. They're not just another sale. They're not just another number or another invoice or you trying to meet your quota that month. They're somebody who you actually care about and you want your product or your service to be improving their lives in a meaningful way.
Do you have any examples of some companies that do this really well?
Yeah. So one company that I love telling this example because I'm a super fan of is a company called Chewy. And I don't know if you guys have pets or not, but when my husband and I moved to Tennessee 3 years ago, it was like somebody gave us a scratch card and was like, how suburban can you get in a year? And we were like, we can do everything. Like we bought a house, got, the vehicles, the lawnmower, we got pregnant, we got these 2 rescue dogs. So all of a sudden we found ourselves with these 2 dogs and had never had dogs before. And one of the dogs, Bear, was constantly sick. Like we couldn't find a dog food that didn't make him like throw up all the time. And so finally our vet was like, okay, we're going to try this prescription dog food. I did not even know prescription dog food was a thing. I found out that I could order it from a pharmacy that was connected to the retailer Chewy online, chewy.com. And so I placed my order. And I wish I had the screen share to show you guys, but the email conversation went something like this. I ordered it online and it said, you have to send an email authorization. So I sent an email saying, attached, please find the prescription for this order, thanks. Immediately got a response back thanking me for sending Bear's prescription. So the very first thing that they did was use the name of my dog, which I hadn't done in my email. It was written on the prescription. They said, we're here 24/7 to lend a helping paw. So simply bark in our direction if you need us. Like all of these cute dog puns that I was like, oh, this company's got some personality. This is fun. I really like it. So I went from being somebody who, just like randomly was like, let me try this Chewy place, to within a couple of email correspondences from a customer service rep was like, oh, this is a really fun company. They care about me and they care about my dog because their story is making pets and their people feel appreciated and taken care of. So Chewy, in addition to this, so that was my very first interaction with them, was this email exchange where this person was being so accommodating, was referring to my dog by name, was stepping up and saying, how can I help you? About a week later, I got a handwritten card in the mail from them welcoming us to the Chewy family. And I was like, wow, that's fantastic. How cool is this? And so, of course, I became a customer, right? I started buying more than just food there. I was buying treats. I was buying toys. I was buying all of the other like heartworm and flea tick and, pet beds, all of the things that you need when you have animals. And like a few months later, I got hand painted portraits of both of my pets in the mail. They had an artist actually paint these cool canvases of Bandit and Bear. So now when you come into my house, there's these portraits of my dogs, and they do these surprise and delight things for their customers all the time. In addition to, so like my pets get cards on their birthdays. I'm kind of embarrassed to say that like sometimes I forget the pets' birthdays now because I have 2 human now. But I don't have to worry about it because birthday cards show up from Chewy. They've sent random boxes of treats and toys to the dogs just as like a surprise and delight. So they have done such an amazing job of making their customers feel like they're a part of something bigger, like they're a part of this family, right? It's not just an e-commerce exchange. It's a 2-way relationship. They do an amazing job on social media. If you tweet, you don't even have to @tag them on any social. If you're mentioning them at all, there's a very high likelihood that within minutes, you're going to hear back from their customer service team. They're really great. Brian, to your point before about sharing videos, they love sharing consumer generated content or user generated content of pets interacting with their box. They actually on the outside of the box, they encourage you to record videos of your pets getting excited when the Chewy boxes come and use the hashtag. I think it's like Chewy Box Love or something like that. And if you do that, like if you're a customer who shares content, there's a very high likelihood that you will get something in the mail from them. At a minimum, you're going to get a shout out or tweet on social media. And you know that they're paying attention, right? They're creating this really fun environment where they're fostering 2-way communication. So it's not just like, we're going to sell you something and forget about it. It's, you're a part of this family. Your pets are a part of our family. How can we make this fun for you? And because of that, they were acquired a couple of years ago at the highest ever valuation for an e-com. They were bought for like over $3 billion by PetSmart. And they've been around for like 8 or 9 years. So an upstart company who just did a fantastic job of customer service created these super fans and, became incredibly valuable, so much so that a much more established competitor had to spend a ton of money to bring them into the fold.
That's a pretty cool thing. I mean, first, does the box smell like bacon? I don't use cheese. So I'm joking.
Well, a lot of times it smells like whatever the treats are inside of it. Right?
So the dog's like right there. Yeah. So that's really cool, because it's almost like they're replacing what they would normally do, like some weird, silly email follow-up with like, here's something real, right? To acknowledge the users, which is really cool. Now, I guess, I don't know if Nicolette has another question, but I want to ask. Yeah, why don't you ask your question?
Go ahead, because I've got a couple of other things.
So
I want to say on this.
That's pretty cool. What is the craziest thing you've sort of ever seen a fan actually do in reverse for the companies?
Oh, good.
I used to run an entertainment agency, and we worked with some of the biggest artists and brands in the world. So I've seen a lot of crazy things. Fans of artists, fans of movie franchises. So, gosh, I mean, I've seen people get tattoos on their faces. Like, I've seen some pretty crazy stuff over the years.
What's wrong with these people? I mean, I don't know. I mean, there's got to be a line between superfan and crazy, right? I mean,
it's a very thin line, and this is something that we've talked about. Like, I don't have a psychology or psychiatry background, so I can't speak to the people who are like too far over the line. But like, there are people who have like very obsessive personalities or personality traits that make them go like towards the crazy side. So we're not talking about that. We're not talking about the people that you need a restraining order from. Although in your community, like it's always going to be a continuum, right? Like you're going to have the people in the middle. You're going to have the people who over-index in their affinity to a big extent, and then you're going to have like the people that you're like, oh, I wish I could block them, but don't. Right? You've got to, you need to be careful dealing with people who have the clear mental health issues with your brand.
Well, then so on the flip side, you've got the crazy superfan, the regular superfan. And what about the folks who are really not brand loyal, but they're really just looking for the best price? So let's use the Chewy example. What if Chewy was, selling a set of package of bones for, $3 more than Amazon? Would you have gone to Amazon? Obviously it's just $3, but I'm sure there are people who are like, well, why would I spend $3 more when I don't have to? So how do you convert the person who's really only interested in saving money to a superfan?
That is a great question. So almost 100% of people will tell you in surveys that they will pay more for the exact same product for better customer service, which is shocking. But almost 100% of people, like there's various studies, and it's usually anywhere from like 85 to 100% of people say, I will pay more for a better customer service experience. And when you think about how bad customer service experience is in some industries, right? Like telecom is like the standard example of like, everybody hates their cable company. Nobody thinks their internet is fast enough. So there are people that's part of the reason the numbers are such as they are. But what you do when you create superfans is you make price irrelevant. And the way you do that is you make people not even look. So like, if I need anything for my pet, I just buy it on the Chewy app. Like I never even check Amazon anymore. And this is coming, I get Amazon Prime packages every day, right? Like I probably place 12 to 15 orders on Amazon Prime a week, especially now since everybody's at home with COVID. Mm-hmm. But never for pets do I even check, because I've got this relationship with Chewy. I love Chewy, and price is irrelevant to a certain extent. Now, obviously, if there was something that it might be like a huge swing, I would look at it. But I believe in paying more because I know the service is going to back it up. I know, for instance, with Chewy, if I buy something that I don't like, if I call them up and say, hey, this didn't work for my pet, they're going to refund the money, no question asked, where other people might not do that. Other retailers might not be so forgiving. So by creating superfans, what you do is create people who are so loyal, it doesn't even occur to them to price check anymore. It doesn't occur to them to be price conscious. Now, of course, you're never going to convert everyone. So as you're looking at your funnel of customers, what you can do is say, how many of the people that I have right now that are perhaps sometimes price sensitive and perhaps sometimes not, can I convert them deeper down into this funnel of super fandom? And a lot of times you can, and a lot of times you won't be able to. You're never going to have 100% of your customer base become super fans. Don't even try. It's a futile effort. Like, you will never ever do it. But those people who are price sensitive are probably not going to be the people who are out there with the power to send you referrals, right? Because they're not going to say, I love this brand, I love this. They're going to say, oh, well, did you know if you clip out this coupon and wait 3 months and then use these 4 different affiliate links, you can save 17 cents on this thing, right? Like, those aren't the people who are going to be raising their hand when somebody asks in a Facebook group or via text or at their kid's softball game, if softball is ever a thing we get to play in real life again. Those aren't the people are going to for recommendations. So the people who have this reputation for being the one to always raise their hand and say, like, oh yeah, I know where you should go for this, or I know what you should do for this. Oftentimes those are the ones who aren't so price sensitive, and they're not making the recommendation to a friend or a family member or a random person they know on social media based on price. Oftentimes, price is not even like a factor, right? They're not even thinking about it because maybe it's been 3 months or 6 months or a year since they bought whatever service. All they know is they had a wonderful experience and they want to share that with somebody who's looking for the product or service.
Okay, so on the flip side, all right, I got another one. So on the flip side, what if your product is crap? What if you sell crap products and services? Can you still generate super fans?
I would say shame on you.
Experience.
I'm with Brittany on that.
Yeah, I would say shame on you. And the reason is because I feel like to be successful in sales or marketing or anything else, it almost has to be a given that you're coming from a place of ethics, that you are trying to make someone's life better. And if you're knowingly selling a product that's either a bad product or even like the wrong product for that person, I would say shame on you. Mm-hmm. There are other ways to feed your family. There are other ways to, buy whatever it is that you need. The world needs people that are looking out for each other, not that are like selling crap product. So I would say if you find yourself in a position of having a product that you don't believe in, try to fix it. And if you can't, like, go somewhere else, like find another job. It is not hard to find a job as a salesperson. There are plenty of products out there that are amazing. And you should take your talents and your abilities to a company where you could actually make people's lives better and not worse.
So,
all right. So no crap, no selling crap
products. Don't sell.
That's
well, I mean, that's like if you, like, because that's like saying like, can I still be in a relationship with that hot person even if I'm an asshole? Like, but like, don't be an asshole. Like, why would you not just, what I mean?
You have a T-shirt that says that.
Like,
well, this one says be a good human, but we have one that says don't be an asshole. Actually.
Yeah, I knew I liked you guys.
So I have a question, right? We talked about Chewy, and Chewy is, it's a distributor in some ways, right? They don't, they may manufacture some products, but they're a distributor. They distribute other people's products. And, we see that with like Amazon. Is there a difference in between how it works for a distributor and that customer service versus the way it works for a company like Apple, who's just making product? So is there a difference in the way a super fan works for service-based company versus, manufacturer, let's say, or a distributor versus a manufacturer?
Yeah. So, in the distributor or even like service-based roles, a lot of times it's the person, right? It's the personal experience, because in very few instances are you actually being loyal to a product. So Apple is an example, right? Although even though with Apple, it's a family of products. It's not so much one product. And even like the most loyal diehard Apple fans will tell you like, oh yeah, I didn't love this one so much. Like every now and then there's a bad one in the bunch. But for the most part, even if you are a product-based company rather than a service-based company or a distributor, people buy from people. Like very rarely are we buying something because of the company. It's because of the way the people that work at the company made us feel, right? Like Chewy, the affinity I have for Chewy is the collection of the feelings of the way I've been treated by all of the people at Chewy over a period of time. And that's one of the scariest things as an entrepreneur or a business owner. every single person at your company who ever talks to any other person has to be in customer service. Like they have to know that they are in customer service, because you can have like the best trained sales team, the most amazing marketing campaign, you know, the best customer response. None of that matters if the person who like picks up the phone when a prospect is calling you is like an asshole to that person, right? Even if it's like the person who happened to be walking by the desk. Any person at your company can be the first and final impression that someone takes away of your brand, which is scary, right? It's also empowering if you're training your employees to know this. But back to your question about if you're a product-based company, or a service or distributor company, yes, there are nuances. And that's when I say a superfan strategy does not look the same across the board. So I actually have a 5-part framework that I typically walk my clients through. We don't have time to get into all of it now. If people are curious, they can go to my website, brittanyhodak.com, to check it out. But the acronym I use is SUPER. It's easy to remember. But SUPER is a 5-part process. It stands for S is start with your story.
Mhm.
So and when I say start, I don't mean lead the conversation. You're not talking about yourself. I mean, before you ever try to make a connection, you've got to understand what it is that makes you awesome, right? I am totally shocked when I talk to people who've been in sales for sometimes decades, and I say, okay, tell me why you're the very best option for me to work with. And they're stumped, or they start to talk about their company, or they start to talk about the benefits of their product. And I say, no, tell me why I should pick you and not one of your competitors. And if you don't know that, how in the world are your customers ever going to be able to figure that out, right? And more importantly, how are you going to be able to communicate it in a standard, repeatable way so that your messaging isn't all over the place, right? Like the power of your story, the power of figuring out what makes you unique and different and best is so that you can position yourself correctly to your potential customers in the marketplace. So you've got to start with that. You've got to get super clear on your uniqueness, your superpower, what it is that makes you the best choice for your potential customers, right? So that's the first step. U stands for understand your customer story. That's all about listening, empathy, identifying not just as like a persona or a target demo who your customer avatar is, but actually taking the time to understand what your individual customers need. So obviously this looks very different if you're a B2B or B2C. If you're somebody who's out there selling, 1 million transactions a year, or 10 or 12 high dollar transactions a year, but really taking the time to understand your customer. And the reason that you've got to do that is because the way that you create superfans is by connecting your story to your customer story. You've got to find a way to make yourself relevant in their life, because if you can't do that, none of the rest of the stuff matters, right? A lot of times people talk to me and they think they have an awareness problem. Like I'll work with a client and they'll say, I've got an awareness problem. Not enough people know about my product or service. And when I really dig in, a lot of times they don't have an awareness problem. They have an apathy problem. Plenty of people know about their brand. They just don't care, because the brand hasn't given people a reason to care. They haven't proven that they're the best. They haven't shown up in a way that says, here's how I can solve a problem you have in a meaningful way. Here's why you need to give me attention or dollars or whatever it is, right? So you've got to get super clear on both your story and your customer story, because the way you create superfans is by connecting your story to theirs. So think about like two circles that come together as a Venn diagram. Where they cross, that's where super fandom happens. And that's the third step, which is P, which stands for personalize and connect. So obviously that's like, we could spend, hours and hours. I teach full workshops for 2 days. All I'm talking about is personalizing and connecting. But then the next step, E, stands for exceed expectations, which is so important in everything that you do in life, not just sales. And then the R stands for repeat. And again, when I go into the full process, that's all about technology, automation, systems, processes, how you're creating a system for yourself so that these things aren't happening by accident. It's a very structured system that you're following every time to make sure that you are creating superfans.
Oh, that's cool.
That was a lot. Sorry, it was a very long answer.
Okay, that's okay. So before I want to, I will want to end with some actionable advice, but before we go there, I just wanted to ask you, what mistakes have you made along the way that kind of that kind of brought you to where, like, the best mistakes you've made that kind of landed you where you are right now? professionally?
I don't know if we have enough time in the show to talk about all of my mistakes. So many. One mistake that I think I've made along the way, and I think a lot of people make this, especially when they're in their 20s or early 30s, and you're figuring out what you're trying to do, is trying to do too much at the same time. Like trying to say like, I can take on this, I can take on this, and not really knowing. And I'm going to mess it up, but like, there's like, I think it's like a Russian parable. They chase two rabbits, get no dinner, something like that. I think I've like messed it up, but the idea of like having way too many things that you're focused on, that you're trying to add value because you're like, this sounds like fun. This sounds like a good idea. Let me do this. Let me do this. And in my professional career, the way that manifested was, even though I was running a business, I was like, oh yeah, I can do consulting on this side. Oh yeah, I can write for all these places. Oh, being a speaker, that sounds like fun. Let me do this too. Oh, let me work on this content. Like I was being pulled in so many directions that I was like pretty good at a bunch of stuff instead of being awesome at like one or two things. And so in my professional life, that was definitely like, I was just, running in a lot of directions rather than saying, let me go be like the best in the world at something. And where that sort of led me in this research about fandom is that's the same thing. Like when I say start with your story, get really clear on what makes you the best. And it's one thing, right? Because if you try to be like, you're never going to be the fastest and the cheapest and the best and, 7 other things. Like you've got to figure out what your thing is and go all in on that. And then let that inform all of the other communication around your thing. Because then what happens is you become uncopyable, right? Like you become known for being the best at that thing and you also become uncopyable. So leaning into whatever your uniqueness is. So I would say lack of focus or lack of clarity is definitely one of the mistakes that I made a bunch of times before I sort of figured out how to move past that.
Awesome. All right. So leave us with something. If I'm a company, I'm listening, or I'm listening in, I want Superfans too. What can I do right now, after I finish listening to you? Is there something I can go do to kind of get that process rolling?
So I would say if you have one takeaway from our time together, the number one rule that you can follow in creating superfans is a rule called the platinum rule. This is not my rule. It's from a book that was written a long time ago. You're smiling. Are you familiar with the platinum rule?
No, but I like where this is going.
We all grew up with the golden rule, right? Which, fun fact, comes from the Bible. The golden rule says, do unto others as you would have them do unto you, right? Treat people the way you would want to be treated, which is great. For 2,000 years, humanity's been following it. It's awesome, right? The platinum rule goes a step further. It says, don't treat other people the way you want to be treated because other people aren't like you. We don't all have the same backgrounds, the same beliefs, the same views, the same preferences. So if you really want to be awesome, or super, as I would say, treat people the way they want to be treated. Find out what they want and treat them that way. So by asking the right questions for things as seemingly silly as like, when and how should I communicate with you, can be huge things to show your clients that you actually do appreciate them. You are thankful for the interaction that you have with them. So the platinum rule, treat others the way they want to be treated. Ask the kind of questions to figure out what it is that you need to do to make every single customer feel like the only customer that matters.
Thank you so much, Brittany. And thank you so much for joining us. This is awesome.
Yeah, of course. Thanks for having me.
Can you tell everybody where they can learn more about you?
Absolutely. You can find me at brittanyhodak.com, or you can follow me on whatever your social media of choice is. I'm just at Brittany Hodak on all of them. And if you do head over to my website, feel free to download some of the fun free resources that I have up. You can download Step 1, which is all about your story, figuring out what your uniqueness is, how to be awesome. I've got a free ebook up called the Superfan Wave and lots of other stuff about gifting and appreciation that I hope you guys will find useful.
Thank you so much. We appreciate it, Brittany.
Yeah, thank you.